Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McCLELLAND.
And welcome to another week of the Sales Leader of Influence show. And what a week it has been this week. For me, I have just welcomed, well, I haven't, but my son has just welcomed number 4 grandchild into the world. So we have 3 little girls and we now have a little boy. So it's been a great week for us. And on the work front, an interesting week as well. So I've had a couple of conversations with a couple of sales leaders, and I want to acknowledge David. And David is a sales leader that I had a great conversation with earlier in the week. And he has, springboarded off one of the episodes that I had a couple of weeks ago where it was state over strategy, and where I kind of dug a little deep into identity. And he wanted me today to, well, not necessarily today, but we had a discussion around nervous systems when it comes to salespeople. And then we pivoted off into sales leaders. So that has prompted today's episode around nervous systems when it comes to sales leadership. And so I guess when we look at sales as a bucket or as a category, you could say that sales very much today is definitely a nervous system sport. So what I want to do today and share with you today is I guess just a quick refresher on the 3 avenues that I kind of discussed a couple of weeks ago. And that is when we're talking about identity and those 3 factors when they are brought together in a Venn diagram, the intersection being identity, we looked at 3 layers, if you like. We looked at psychology, which is the mechanics that go into your decision making as a leader, all of the mechanics and the hard stuff that go into it. We looked at philosophy, which is the meaning that we put on things, and we looked at physiology, which is movement. And it's that component that I want to look at today. And when we talk about movement and we talk about physiology, that's what I want to dig down deep into. Because sales, when we talk about sales, if you were to ask anybody to give their meaning of sales or what comes up for them when they hear the word sales, they will ultimately come up with a number of different words. Numbers, metrics, KPIs, dollars, scoreboards, pipelines, you name it. It leads to outcomes. It leads to results. So that's what sales is all about. That's what sales leaders get paid to do, to help sales teams generate those results. That's what salespeople get hired for, to go out, to find prospects, to convert sales. I want us today to look at a different kind of outcome, and that is to look at regulation. And so when I talk about regulation, this is one of those invisible drivers. And this invisible driver is such a powerful driver of results and often gets overlooked. And so I've just come back last night from San Francisco. I was across in San Francisco working with an amazing sales team, amazing leadership team who is cognizant of this. And so I'm there and I'm at the front of the room and I'm going around the group and I'm asking a question. And I come to one guy, love him, great guy. And I asked a question, the same question I've asked of everybody, and I didn't understand his answer. And so I asked it again. And I still wasn't 100% sure of what he was actually saying. And part of me, a tiny part of me at this stage thought, okay, no, I'm going to ask again. And so I did. Now, at this point, I'm still not understanding him. And I'm thinking, God, am I dumb? And I'm looking at the rest of the room and they're okay. And so at that point, I know I have to ask again. Like this will be the third time. But I know that I'm at the front of the room. And so if I don't have clarity around what he's saying, then, I'm incongruent to start with, and I'm not in integrity as the trainer. So I took that as a really great example at this point in time, to share with the room. I said, okay, I am going to ask one more time, but I want the rest of you to understand something. That what I'm about to do is me not just teaching you in a moment. I'm going to teach you a skill in a moment, but what I also want you to do is to watch me, because I am actually walking my talk about what I'm going to teach you in a moment. And this is an example of what I want you to actually do out in the field. So I then said to this guy, I said, I'm still not 100% certain of what you are saying. Can you please share with me one more time what you mean? And he did, and I got it. I then said to the group, how many of you have been in a sales conversation when you have not understood what the prospect or the client has said? And they all put up their hand. I then asked them, how many of you have been in a conversation where you have not understood what somebody has said and you have not asked the question that I have just asked 3 times? And they all put their hand up. And I asked them, what made them not ask for clarification? What made them not go that next step and ask for more information or ask for an added explanation? And the answers came back varied. I bet you know what those answers were. The answers came back that they didn't want to look stupid, that they didn't want to make the prospect feel uncomfortable, that they didn't want to feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, that they didn't want to have this fear of rejection, that they wanted to feel like approval. All of those feelings that we all know. And so this is what is underneath so much. And it is all of this nervous system that is at play. And so the thing is that as leaders, this is also impacting you. And so I'm going to ask you is, how many times have you sat in a meeting, perhaps with your senior leaders, and nodded? Or how many times have you felt the need for perfection? Or how many times have you assumed that your team have understood something? Or how many times have you absolutely over-prepared? Or maybe sent off emails on a weekend or worked till 1 or 2 in the morning? Because all of this is you operating on a nervous system that is potentially not regulated. And so if we come back to, and I'm just going to pick something from the group, because your role is sales leadership. And that's your title. But I like to push that to the side because we're all humans and we're all figuring out this thing at the same time. And so if we think for a moment that one of the biggest factors of stress or fear of rejection or nervousness or anything like that out there, one of the biggest ones is imposter syndrome. I mean, I have felt that all the way through my sales career. Absolutely. Whether it's about money, whether it's about calling on the C-level, all of that. And so I get it. I get it when I'm in front of a sales team, which makes me so relatable. I get it from a leadership perspective, which makes me so relatable. So when you think about that and you think about, okay, who made up this supposed syndrome that we're all supposed to suffer from? By the way, we're supposed to suffer from this syndrome. It's a construct. It's something that somebody else made up that we've all bought into. So in actual fact, when you think about it, imposter syndrome kicks in because somebody made up something about a scoreboard. And so what we do is we look at somebody else's score and then we decide, well, is my score enough? And imagine if there was no scoreboard. I mean, then maybe we would just show up and be. Now, that would be a novel concept, wouldn't it? So we see CEO on the door, or a salesperson walks into a prospect and they see CEO on the door. Now, somebody at some stage made up this construct that a teacher or a policeman, policewoman, a priest, somebody in authority had a better score. And so there's this construct that's going on. And so from a leadership perspective, that belief or that construct doesn't just stop when you get given a title and a bigger paycheck. That construct continues on. And so when you are in some form of situation like those salespeople were, or like I was at the front of the room, where you are showing up and you have some form of story where I can't ask 3 questions in a row because that's going to absolutely fry my nervous system, then you are not going to be in a situation where you are going to ask bold questions, or you are not going to be in a situation where you are going to comfortably call at the C-level, or you are not going to be in a situation where you are confidently going to be able to lead a sales team of people who have perhaps been in the game longer than you. So when we talk about leadership being a nervous system game, this is what I'm talking about. So I remember a number of years ago now, 10 years ago, I'm still connected with him. He's still a wonderful client, and he was a client back then, and he was a current client at the time. And so I finished working with the company, and we were connected on Facebook. So I wasn't actually working with the company at that point in time. And I had a chat message, and it was garbled, like garbled, alphabet garbled. And he, without spelling it out, was in a very desperate state. And so there was a line that I then crossed between ex-client and human being. And so, long story short, I ended up meeting him for coffee. And at that point in time, you cannot go into logic. You can't, what's the word I'm trying to say? You can't teach somebody something at that point in time. You can't coach somebody at that point in time. You can simply be there for somebody at that point in time. And so what I'm trying to say there is that you will have, as a leader, people in your team whose stress levels may be so high that pressuring them for numbers is not going to get the numbers. That you have got to learn to read the play, and that you've got to recognize that sometimes being there for them is what they need. And so as a leader, you're not just there to regulate the numbers. You must regulate yourself as well in order to regulate your team. And so your nervous system is your software, and everything runs off your software. And so if your software is frozen, if it's reactive, if your software is overwhelmed, then your leadership is not going to work. That's what I'm trying to say. And the same applies for your salespeople. If their nervous system, which is their software, is overwhelmed, reactive, if it is frozen, if it is not working, then they are not going to work out there in the field. And so the signs, they are everywhere. From a leadership perspective, if your decision making is absolutely reactive, if you are controlling, if you are, everything is like urgent, if you are shooting emails off at midnight, then your salespeople are going to be absorbing all that pressure, and they're going to be feeling that pressure. And then they're going to be somehow taking that on board, and then they're going to be reacting, or they're going to be absorbing it and feeling something. And so you may think that driving, it's all about driving, and it's not. So it's a case of how do you regulate your nervous system without joining some hippie commune and kind of kumbayaing. And so what I want, I guess, to share with you is that we have all learned all of this imposter syndrome, all of this anxiety, all of this, well, it's learned, and we can unlearn it. And so here's a couple of things that I want you to kind of, I guess, factor in if you want. And so number one, there's 4 things that I want you to recognize that we all do. And so these constructs that we have, they're triggered. And they're triggered by our self-talk, and we know that. And they're triggered by our self-talk, and that self-talk is either about us or about other people. And so if it's about us, it's like, do I have what it takes? It's kind of like, that's my one, by the way. Do I have what it takes? But I think you know where I'm going there. But then it could be about other people too. It's like, are they doing the right thing? Does she have what it takes? So it'll be either one or the other. Secondly, so then there's the trigger. Secondly, it's our nervous system then reacts to that. So we think that it's triggered by that. Our nervous system reacts to that. We will either, our breathing gets affected. So just think about it when you're sitting in front of a client or a prospect, a salesperson, for example. They'll be sitting there. They'll go into the seat like the team I was talking about, sitting in front of a prospect. And the trigger is, I didn't hear what they said, but I'm not going to ask what they said, just in case they think I'm stupid. That's the self-talk. And then the nervous system kicks in and the breathing starts. They might kind of, blood pressure changes, they might start sweating a little bit, and then there's this pressure to prove themselves. And the same with leadership. Exactly the same with leadership. Then there's this constriction of emotions. Now, you may not think people notice, but they notice. The thing is, we have normalized our behavior so much that we don't notice it, but other people do. And here's where the energy kicks in. And it's this energy transfer. So we don't notice it, but other people do. And so this is where business is lost, because people buy conviction. And if they're not seeing that conviction in your salespeople, or leadership aren't seeing the conviction in you, you won't get the promotion or you won't get the funding. So that is where the nervous system reacts. And then the behavior, we compensate with our behavior. And so as a result of that, you might just hustle harder, or you might over-prepare, or you might become a people pleaser, or you might withdraw, or you might just kick into entitlement mode. And then whatever the result is, it'll be a case of, well, we'll just reinforce it. See, told ya. And then that loop continues. So that is why, this is what I want you to do if you're recognizing yourself in that, to, I guess, combat it. You can try harder at getting better at not doing it, but you're really just becoming a shinier, better version of the old version of you. And so this is why I, the premise behind my, I guess, deliberate disruption, you hear me talk about that a lot. Those of you that follow me, it really is completely consciously, deliberately becoming a new version of you, and completely, deliberately disrupting parts of you, and not just becoming better at what you do, but completely shifting up what you do and going vertical. And so I hope that this kind of helps you think a little bit differently about your nervous system and how it impacts your leadership, and how it can impact your sales team's nervous system as well, and how both parties can go to market differently, not better, differently, and get better results faster. And so within the Sales Leader of Influence, and I'll get Jason to put the link up, Sales Leader of Influence, jump onto that URL and apply. If you are so interested in really getting to the nuts and bolts of, at this level, this is a huge part of what I do inside the Sales Leader of Influence model, inside the Sales Leader of Influence Accelerator, because we can't just talk about revenue and role clarity, and we just can't talk about, coaching to the C-suite. We can't talk about those hardcore skills without shifting this baseline. You can't influence others if you don't know what influences yourself. So I'd encourage you to jump on that site, apply, just have a conversation with me. It may not be a fit for you, and that's cool. I'm not into heavy selling. I'm not into any of that at all. I want to make sure the right people are in the right room for the right reasons. And I'd love to have that conversation with you. And more than anything, I'd love to know how this episode has resonated with you at all. Drop me a line and let me know what else that you would love for me to share with you in upcoming episodes. This is what I'm here to do. So continue to lead with soul, spirit, and spine. And we'll see you here this time next week. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McCLELLAND. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.